We're still gonna try to go after
It's
the
been going on
home, the owner, right?
The owner, we're gonna try.
It's been going on for the last 100 years. It used to be along Alameda where they had those deals, and every month or so you'd have somebody.
So we went in there, we just cut the head wall, dialed into it, and kind of repaired it. It came out pretty nice. That's actually we were done.
Need to make it out of rubber.
But, yeah,
Put some of those tires up there, George got the idea.
yeah. That's a lot.
Okay, this section here is part of the Franklin Canal between Pascal, which is where El Paso Drive kind of forks, and Alameda. That's where that chain link fence is there.
Wow.
Colas is there. They've never wanted me to cut those trees down because of a wind blockage, and the same as the El Paso Zoo, and you'll see some pictures there from the El Paso Zoo. So finally, I just bit the bullet. I didn't even talk to them, and I went in there and I cut everything down. We actually have to put the mowers inside the channel because I don't have a lift bank there. As you can see, the mower will not fit on that.
That's the Franklin?
That's actually the El Paso Zoo right there.
Wow.
It's a head part of the canal, head of the canal.
So we removed all the bamboo, all the trees and everything in that area, all the way up to US 54. And now you'll notice that we're gonna have to go in there and widen the channel because that channel kind of closed up pretty bad. I've got some real bad berms in there that I'm having to dig out and haul out. So right now I'm digging the berms out and just kind of stockpiling them one side. I'm done with the trucks here on the riverside. I'll move them up there and start hauling that out.
And it's always a problem in that area.
Yes,
Pete, is there concrete underneath that sand, or?
that section there is.
That section there is, and we already have funding through a grant through Texas Water Development Board to concrete line that area.
So that fence that you see there right behind the,
That would be the fence.
yeah, that fence you see right behind the mower, that's where they bring the animals into the zoo.
You know, we might want, I don't know if we have enough money in the grant, we might want to pave the, or at least do some improvement on the O&M roads there too, just so nothing can grow in that, just sterilize the whole thing, don't you think? It's so hard to get in there.
Yes.
No, it's impossible. I guess those fences were put up where the Bureau years ago, right?
I'm assuming,
I think Bert put them
yeah, we redid that, the one there on the right bank, what was it, Chewy, about maybe 6-7 years ago?
in.
Maybe more?
More or less 5-6 years
We
ago.
redid it, right?
We redid it, yes.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we redid it, and
Years and years and years and years.
they ran into it so many times that I thought it was all over the place. So,
But, yeah, we might want to, about the only thing will stop the bamboo, would be concrete.
and me and Mr. Reyes met with Leo from the El Paso Zoo, and they're willing to come into some type of agreement where they can help out to beautify this area.
Yeah. Once we concrete line, then I told Pete we'll go back and visit with them and see what we can work out.
Sure, they have some animal that can graze all over the weeds,
We
right?
need giraffes, yeah.
Well, that bamboo, the reason they didn't want to cut it was because that's what they would give the elephant.
Elephants.
Yes.
Wow.
We need to make that a pasture for elephants.
But it was either listen to
Don't
the,
step on our concrete.
it was either listen to the zookeeper or listen to Robert. So I decided, the hell with the zookeeper.
That was an easy decision. Good choice. That's always been a big problem up there. That's
Go
a
ahead.
place the sand gets deposited right there.
There you see the bridges that go into the zoo, right behind it.
I still use some soil stimulants.
We're being pretty careful with
You gotta be very careful with the trees and stuff.
that area, I don't think we should.
Yeah, no, and they're very particular about what we use in there.
Yeah.
And when I go in there to clean because of the migrating of the birds and,
All that stuff.
it's a whole different battle.
And Pete's found some pretty nice snakes in there.
Yeah.
They don't have any goats. If they do, they can use them.
Okay, so this here again is the Isla. Some pictures of where we started. You can see the school there. And kind of where we're at today, kind of what the process is from beginning to end. So again, we should be done with these stuff by next week. I'm thinking by next Friday, if not by Wednesday of the following weekend, we should be completely done. Here's the riverside. On the riverside, we actually had to drop this pipe in the drain to make a crossover because the turn, like where the bridge of the border patrol is very narrow and our trucks can't make that turn. So we're having to drop something in the drain to make a crossover. And here we did the same thing. We had to kind of make ramps for the mowers so I can maintain that right bank or cut the grass because I can't get equipment up there. Well, now I can.
And so I think we have Border Patrol still here, is that you've really, on our part of the fence, you've really done a lot to improve the ability to maintain it
Yes.
by building that, which we had requested when it was condemned, you guys, Chewy remembers, because we wanted them to do all what you're doing now, we requested to be done a long time when they first built the fence, and they wouldn't do it. We told them that we'd have all this vegetation problems, so this will go a long way to resolving, to at least be able to get in there now.
The initial proposal, we put that on the other side, that's right.
The initial one, yeah,
Yeah.
it was in your, somebody's backyard.
And we're gonna put our canals and drainages in Mexico.
And we're still gonna have some spots to where we need to go through the levee to get in, just because of where the tie-ins are in. They opened up to where there's no bank. Regardless of what I do, there's no way I can make a bank there. So we're still kind of gonna have to be dependent on Border Patrol to make sure they work with us on opening those gates for us. Okay, so here you can see the picture before, I'm removing that turnout. Being that we're closing the channel so much, I'm gonna have to bring that turnout in about a good 10-15 feet to get it back into the channel of the riverside. I do have 3 turnouts that I have to relocate.
So we have, on these ones that we're narrowing, increasing the velocity, we haven't had any accumulation upstream yet, right? In any of the concrete areas?
The only place we got accumulation now was on the very first one we did, right below the partidor, from the partidor to the Wasteway 1.
And
That's the only section, and only because we left it so wide. That's what we were first.
So
getting
that's
started on.
that one's had to be wide because it's a flood conveyance.
But that's the only place we got some accumulation, but not much.
Well, if we ever have to use it for floods, then we'll get rid of it real fast. The velocity will go real
And
high.
actually, what we had there, a lot of buildup of boulders that came
Yes.
down through the water.
Really?
That's where
Yes.
they accumulated right there.
Those got pushed in because we don't have any boulders in that area.
Well, the Volska's right beside it, so.
Pretty
Or would
good
they come
size.
from?
There's no, yeah, there's no, the soil, the geology in that area is, there's no, it had to come from those piles they had up there by the dam, remember all that?
Could be.
Yeah, it could be that worked all the way
You can
down.
blame that now on Stanley Jones.
So, yeah, that section
They
is,
took all the big rocks up there to stop that dam from
there's a hydraulic characteristic that we had to get below Riverside Dam, at that Wasteway 1, it's our first wasteway that's downstream of the former Riverside Dam, which has a big, in fact, we used that during the 2006 flood to protect downtown.
Mhm.
So it's hard to understand that, but believe it or not, that little section that we had down there protected downtown El Paso. And so that's why that section has to be so wide, so we can handle a really large flow there. But we dump all that out at Wasteway 1, and we don't let it get, we better not let it get too much of that in below Wasteway 1, because we're narrow, and we won't be able to handle it.
But all that section that we've concrete lined, I don't think we've had to mow even the banks, right, Pete?
No.
At all in the last 2 or 3 years, so once we concrete lined it,
It
we're
helps a
almost
lot.
100% maintenance free.
It
What
helps a
about
lot.
the motorboats and although in Lake Riverside was always there, now you don't have Lake Riverside. That's what I always call that canal, it's so wide.
Go to the next one up. I think we're almost to the end there. Just kind of some pictures as we go down the riverside. Like I said, we're pretty close to about 2,000 feet completed here on the riverside.
If we were getting more than that, you know,
Go to the next one.
how fast and how efficient they can move.
Keep going. And you can see how much room that grader had beside it there. That's how much is wide. So we're coming along, guys. We should, like I said, we should be done with the riverside here before water season, so. Other than that, I guess, any questions for me that you might have?
And you're forecasting to finish Riverside in entirety in the next 2 years?
Sure.
And the next.
No, I don't think so, I think we still
the
lack
next 2
something like,
years.
you think we're gonna do 2 years? I think we lack something like 6 miles.
Mhm.
So, last year, we shotcreted a little over 3 miles. That's the most we've done so far.
You've been doing a lot of other canals though too.
Mhm.
Yes,
Did you put concerted effort on that one?
well, it was a total of
You got-
10,000.
You got your plan, I was just wondering.
It was a total of 10,000 between Island Main, Riverside, and, the Montoya that we did last year. So,
And we have $2 million of funding.
what really takes a long
Right.
time is the narrowing of the channel.
Yeah.
The shotcrete itself is
Well,
quick.
yeah, I know, it's
It's this part here
preparation,
that
but
takes
it
forever.
doesn't get any better the further down you go.
Right.
It just gets wider and worse.
Yes.
How are we looking on this
Go back to office to get our.
I've done some work to them, Larry. In fact, I've dug them out some, but right now, I'm pretty much at a standstill because I just don't have the equipment to continue. I've got the equipment tied up in other areas, for example, this here. And then a lot of thing also is the manpower. We're a little short on manpower, you know, because of.
We have a lot of grant money to do those things, right?
Yes, in fact, right now, we've hired a company to haul us with hauling the dirt,
What
so.
what I was gonna say is that you might, since we have that money, to hire some contractors. to
Yeah,
do it.
that's what
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
And then get it done,
Yeah.
and not put the load on that. He doesn't have much to do, but.
Yeah, it's
I hate
still,
to take any little bit off of him, but that may be the way to get it done quicker.
Yeah, especially with this drought situation, we can get.
and the ponds do need a lot of work, you know, all the turnouts that are there, all the valves that are there, they're all in real bad shape. We started removing the ones that go into the riverside. So there, I just need to get a repairman to go back there and put them, but then I need to replace the pipes that go over the drain, because I think they're asbestos.
Ah,
I think that's what we said they were.
yeah, those ones,
That's-
yeah, you gotta, we'll have to have a
They kinda seem
hazmat on those.
Yeah, so,
It's a friable, they're not dangerous.
Well, all of the, I was talking about mostly all of the rough road work, you know, the dirt work and stuff like that, on most of them, the specific structure, you're probably the best to handle the structure.
On the, those Pete, what technique works pretty well is to spray it with an elastometric paint, you know, you can buy it in the paint
Oh, okay.
places, and that coats it,
right,
and keeps it from friable, and then we don't have to have the hazmat, so,
keeps the dust off.
yeah, keeps it from frying or whatever they call it.
And I do have the D8 there at the ponds. I do have it there and I've stockpiled a lot of it, I just need to haul it out. We've already dug out the large pond and the one next to it. But again, I just need to haul it out. And right now, the trucks are all tied up over here, so.
Well, that's what I say, for something like that, if you got the money and you expedite it, I'd look at getting some help to do that. There's plenty of trucks, I guess, has been.
Yeah, we hired Perea
But I'll try, yes.
to haul dirt to the riverside, so maybe we can talk to him about.
Could you haul some of that out and use it on some of your projects?
You know, actually, it's very sandy. It's very, it's like, like sugar sand. I tried using it, trying to mixing it with some of the clay that I had, but it still was real fine.
Yeah, board has approved it.
Yeah, so, I know somebody that wants it, and they're willing to give us a whole bunch of clay. It's, kind of pick up and dump, so it works out pretty good. The only thing, the only drawback on that is it's quite a bit of distance on it.
A bit of distance, but are they willing to pay for the freight, or it's just a trade out of dirt?
No, it's just a trade out on dirt. He's willing to
You pay for the
go.
hauling both ways, I mean, can you do it at the same time? No.
Yes, because I'm gonna take it over to the riverside. So I'll dump at the riverside, and that's where I'll load it with the sand. So it's,
Well, that's a trucker's dream to be able to do it, a backhaul and all, well,
yeah.
that would make you a good rate for something.
I just gotta talk to them and see if there's something they're willing to do.
That's what I do, I don't know, I think Larry, the rest of the board agrees, I look at going ahead and,
Okay.
because that can be real important, like Larry says, especially during the drought.
Okay, I'll go with Mr. Reyes and we'll get working on it. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete, you've done some good work.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, we're back back up a little. So this is the presentation I'll be making at the farmers meeting this afternoon. So any changes you guys want, let me know. We'll try to make them. It's the standard one that I give every year that we talk about. You know, the conditions in the watershed, drought, soil moisture, precipitation, snow water equivalent, stream flow. We just work our way down from the dirt, the rain, the snow, the flow. And then we get to, you know, annual allocation. We can't make an allocation, so we always put this last statement about 4 times. If we don't allocate water, it's not worth it. It's the way to do it. So drought and soil moisture, I was surprised. I had hoped these parameters had increased, but you'll see that we're in extreme. Over the critical watershed, the Chama and the upper part, which is really right in here, where the satellites are showing and some of the field measures are showing that we're, so I hoped that was better. Precipitation, this is the years from October. It's showing that we're below average, which, again, there's some areas obviously up in the mountains that we're above average quite a bit, but on the watershed coming down, which is an indication, you know, especially at the middle of the ground, of how much water they're going to want, is that we're below normal. So that, I guess, matches up with the drought stuff. 3-month outlook, I don't know if these are worth anything, but we look at them just the same, and so.
It's good to give you depression.
Yeah, it's like, well, occasionally they have the A there instead of the B, which is the above normal. I think, you look at these every once in a while, but we haven't seen too many A's, have we?
No. As a matter of fact, I was surprised we got as much snow as we did get, if you look at
Yeah.
what they've been saying.
It's only at the high elevations, not much water. Snow water equivalent. I don't see any low elevation snow. It's February, we normally have some, and then so all we've got is our watershed. Right, which is right here, a little bit in the San Juans. I mean, up here in the,
Some good.
yes.
Maria's been trying to help us a little bit out in Kirkby, right? He's been getting some snow.
These are the San Juans.
Getting in the river and pushing what's there down.
Yeah, look at Arizona, yeah. And the Gila. Gila's not gonna flow this year. These are the numbers basin-wide, so, you know, in February, you can have an extra inch of snow and it makes the number look really good, because there's only supposed to be, you know, it's this time of year, the numbers aren't very meaningful. And we only start getting, this is the first one that I'll give you guys that we have any confidence in this, and really we have to hope that we can. So the ones we look at, this curve, this is one of them, Wolf Creek. So these lines I draw in here are important. This is where we were last year, and last year was a bad year. You know, we never got above normal. Remember, you have to have I know it sounds crazy, but it's just the way the math works with these guys, the way that they set this up. They could have done a better job over the years, but you have to have above normal snowfall, significantly above normal snowfall, to get a normal amount of water. I know that doesn't quite, not all our water comes from just the snow, it's how dry the soil is and things like that. So you have to have this curve way up here, above this normal curve, for us to get a good runoff. So if our snow at Wolf Creek just follows that curve, that is a bad year for us. And so last year we were right about, this year we're a little bit above that here. We've had a really big event that you guys probably all tracked, we remember that one. The ski lodges opened up and everything, so we are slightly better this year than we are last year at the high elevations. Where we're not, and remember, the amount of water stored at the high elevations is a lot per acre, but there aren't very many acres above 8,000 feet. Most of the land that has snow on it is below 8,000 in water. There's a lot of acres between 6,000 and 8,000. There's only about a couple hundred acres above 10,000, as you know, as you get up to the peak. So when we see these snow, this one's right at about 10,000, this is up at the ski lodge. So it's showing the best of the best. And, but it is a good indicator. We've used it for years, if you can look at one side. So news is here is we're above normal, but not very much above normal from last year. Elephant Butte, There's somebody that wants in, and I don't know who that is, so I'm not letting them in. At Elephant Butte, we have more water than even last year, but remember that's the total amount of water, not all of that is for the project. And our allocation carryover from the amount that was at the end of the year allocation balance is less this year than it was last year. Significantly less. So that means our share of that water is not, we had less water in our balance at the end of the year this year than we did last year. So we're going into this in a worse situation, even though there's more water. Because we have, that water has to go to Mexico to EID too. Estimated inflows is slightly lower than last year at this time, so the rate that's coming in. Again, we're not gonna allocate the 80,000. That's, you know, I can take that off if you guys don't want me to even talk about it. But the total storage we're hoping to get to by June 1 is about 300,000. Total usable will be about 275.
Just call their attention that it's an estimate.
Right. So.
You can say that about 10 times and maybe one of them will listen to you.
Like this is up at Ottawee, excuse me, this is at the Narrows. Let me go to this one, I got them in the wrong order, I'll put them back in. This is the flow upstream, north of Albuquerque at Ottawee. You can see the triangles are the normal amount, and the amount that we're actually getting is less than that, about 150, 200. So that's important because again, we don't really get good production out of these watersheds until it's at normal, above normal, because this water gets used up before it gets to us. But some is getting to us, but I guess every day less and less. According to this graph, this is the inflow to Elephant Butte. It's decreasing a little too steeply. I don't understand that. I guess it's just the dry weather. This is a more accurate curve. We look at how much water's flown into Elephant Butte over time. They released some prior Paramount water that came down. This was designed by reclamation to try to get it into the reservoir. It did a pretty good job that time of year. It was pretty efficient. We had some low elevation snow melt here, a little bit of rainfall. The rest has been this. This is our growth curve. This is the one that I extrapolate to say, hey, are we going to make it? What are we going to get? And this starts October 1st, so this slope is lower than it was last year right now. We don't know what's going to happen. The dotted lines they have no idea, obviously, but it may reach a point where it just levels off. We don't get hardly any inflow, but right now, to even match last year, we need to at least get this much to add to what we already had in storage. Be able to come close to what we were doing last year. So I'm going to be watching that curve every week. These are our total amount, March through July numbers. So you can see last year was a bad year, but there's a lot of years that it was worse. So 18, 20, 13 was a really bad year. And that's why we're seeing this, what we're trying to calculate, what will occur this year is looking like it's going to be worse than last year. So we have less water going into the year that's in our carryover, and we look like there's going to be less water coming out of the watershed. So that'll make it worse than last year. We don't think it'll be as bad as 2013. Guys, I want you to remember, I don't enjoy saying these things. It's not, it's just,
I was gonna say, you're making a real
You gotta tell people so they can make their plan.
yeah, you know, if I see something I think that's optimistic, I don't say it, no. But it's hard to forecast. You just have to look at it. The only way that I can ever really get a good feel for it, I think Chewy's the same way, and Robert especially, is we look at past times.
You just need to be sure that they understand that what is real and what is maybe, because the real is what they need to base their planning intentions on.
So 9 inches. Where's Robert? I need my Robert here.
You chickened out.
We haven't allocated, but if things continue, at this time last year when I made this rough deal, we would have been at 12 inches. We got to 18, but I'm starting 3 inches short. That's what all that stuff amounted to. I told you it's lower this year. So it's not terrible, it could be worse, but like 2013, that year we started, we never got over 6, right? So anyways, we're a little bit above that. But it's looking like, Robert Becerra, I think we run by the same numbers as a May 27th release, June 1st, coordinate that with EPCWID in Mexico. 2013, we shut off around July 15th. We don't have enough water.
Because they just make sure that none of these are cut in stone.
Yeah, well, these are, that one we can do, I know, but that's pretty bad, so we'll get more. This is just a repeat.
The amount of water you're gonna be running and the time you'll have it open depends on the dam, so they need to make sure the dam doesn't get too, by explaining there's not gonna be water, because they go out and plant it and then we don't deliver.
Right, yeah, you're gonna be there at the meeting, right?
I'm gonna be there, but I'm gonna depend on you, because I'm not taking blame.
You usually take care of that part. So there's the bad news. Everything else was getting related to the compact and several
I
times.
see Renee joined, so maybe it was Renee trying to get in on your
Renee
slide.
is muted, but we'll put him up.
He might have been wanting to get in.
I'm here.
I didn't allow him. All right, we move on, who's next?
That's all your report.
Okay, the licensing, yeah, that's it.
No. Item 14, application 3090, Sequoia Logistics.
Yeah, I'd like to do 14. I had to work on it. We've been working on this one for almost a year. This is just a subdivision plat, and we resolved, this was one we talked about last time, about making sure that we had met my approval, I'll sign off on it, the design for an alternative delivery facility. So we've got that accomplished. It's a bit of an expensive facility, but it will meet the requirements of the ditch. Remember, this is a community ditch, not one of our ditches. And so we have limited authority in this situation. Legally in Texas, very limited authority. So we got them to agree to make some significant capital improvements and to put some options in so if we do have trouble making sure that we can adjust. And that's what I discussed with us. And then Mr. Reyes, you had instructed him to discuss, and I think you had the meeting.
Yes, and the family members are
The
here.
family members here, I guess if it's appropriate, I know you had already opened it up for public comment, but maybe they weren't aware that they want to make a public comment.
Would y'all like to make any comment?
Just in general, that it occurred to me that it might be appropriate, if possible, to require a bond of these people to put in this ditch, because if issues come up down the road, I mean, their stated intent is to sell it to somebody else, ultimately Amazon. But if problems come up, if they do need to use a pump, for example, to move the water, if gravity won't do it, then what happens 3 owners down when the pump goes out? You know, what's our recourse then? What's your role? But if there's some money up there so that they can cover any repairs that would need to be made, and then pass that along to the subsequent purchaser, to me that is a good result, or a good insurance that things won't necessarily, you know, you get left in the lurch. So they're coming here, they get everything approved, move the ditch, and then they sell that thing off, and it's not their problem anymore.
You know, that I can understand your concern, but I'm not sure the district can help you in that. Our only control is the water at the head of the ditch. That's a community ditch, belongs to private people. We don't have a lot of say other than we did in this case to make sure it's constructed in a manner which will deliver water. But I'm not sure if it's possible in any way that we even get involved in something that legally, because we have no legal authority past our authority is to deliver water to to the head gates, and that's where it ends. So, I mean, a community ditch is really between the people that own the land, which would be you and them, that is affected, right? There's only two.
There's only one.
Well, it
Serves, yeah, there's two parties.
The two parties.
Yeah, and we can't,
In
and
any other community ditch, there's a whole bunch of parties, and we always have a lot of problems about cleaning the ditches, and, you know, my neighbor will, and the other one doesn't, and that sort of stuff. The only control we have is not delivering the water. We don't, what are your thoughts on that, Alan?
yeah, we can't get into, there's a proposed license agreement between the two parties that the developer, we didn't even get into that because that's not our, we have no authority to
So we don't have-
become involved between those two parties. Texas, you know, New Mexico laws are stronger. EPCWID has some authority, we don't, and we've known this for 100 years, right? This has been an issue for 100 years.
I guess I didn't say it clear enough, it'd be between you and the developers, to be able to do that.
And if he could get a covenant or a bond out of that, I think that, you know, that would be something
Yeah.
we would support, but we can't.
And
We're
the
not
only-
opposed to it by any
Our
means.
only hammer is not delivering water, so if we don't deliver water, who's it gonna hurt?
Oh,
You, because you're the only one gonna get the water, so.
Well, my other question, I guess, at this point, is then why are they even fooling, to put it that way, with this board? Why don't they just act on their own? Because they're obviously having to come here for approval at pretty much
Because
every
we have
step.
approval of the plat to make sure the structures are there, we do have that authority.
Wait, so our authority on the plat is limited to the nature of the water right that they own, not you. It's their, since we administer the water rights, the plats are irrigable land plats that have to identify their water rights so that we can properly take care of it with our tax office, which is over there. And so the purpose of that plat is very limited, and we've had it challenged legally too. Right now, we haven't ever had to go to court, everybody's doing it voluntarily, but there have been various people that have challenged that. Some, you know, we know about those challenges, but none of them have ever been resolved. They've always complied voluntarily, and this group has complied voluntarily. So we just have, under that, what they're approving today is really related to irrigable land, is what's in front of you guys. And we've tried to accommodate the two landowners on the community just the best we can. And we've worked really hard on that for many months. And this is, I can recommend this facility, this lot.
Do you have anything else?
No, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So I entertain a motion to approve application 3090.
So move.
Art makes a motion, do I have a second? Larry seconds, all in favor say aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now, application 1853, 54.
53 and 54 can be done together. There's just a clarification. These are actually letters, the board is approving. They have, the city score has a master license for all roads that you guys have seen and we've developed. So under that provision, they have to go through what is considered like a sub-application. And so we don't actually generate a new license because the licenses are already in place. We generate an approval that they've met the terms of the existing license. So there's just a clarification, the wording's a little bit on there. That 50 years has already run 2 years.
Correct.
And we're in the second year of that. And these are for two improvements. I think they're significant improvements, make it better for us and make it better for the community.
They're not freespan bridges right now.
They are freestanding.
Now?
Right now they are, and they will be when they're put in.
Yeah, that's.
So we have no, and they're gonna pave 200 feet upstream and downstream, and they're gonna match. We're scheduled to do some lining of this section of the canal, Pete's talking about that. So these new structures will match our design that we had prepared for that lining. That's great.
And the freespan's always a better deal.
Yeah, and it's set, they're set, designed to pass sediment and control vegetation, so it's a win-win situation.
And it's two of these bridges, Johnny, that are real, like a hump
Oh, yeah.
coming into the.
Yeah, one of them's a little bit of a
Oh,
hump,
yeah.
one's not.
And so they're fixing that, and so we made it a requirement of,
On Bovee Road down there.
Yeah, plus that there's
concrete
safety,
lining 200
pedestrian
feet
safety
above and
facilities
below.
going in.
That'll be a huge improvement. Are they gonna, how are they gonna, the problem is accessing those bridges from Alameda, that's where
Yeah, well, one of these isn't very high. Bobby's pretty normal, and the other one's a little bit, not as bad as some of them, like
Yeah.
a few other ones.
The ones in the future,
Yeah, they took the two easy ones right now. The ones that are the ski jumps are really problematic.
basically, right.
But anyways, these two, took us a while to get these done. They made the application 2 years ago, and they didn't do anything. But we've got them, and TechStop funding is gonna help the city with that, so it's a win-win project.
Is this paid up front or is this paid
You know, I'd have to go back and check, is it an annual payment on, do you remember? Or maybe Mary does.
from the city of Socorro.
Yeah,
They paid annually, and they've completed paying their obligation to us on the agreement.
oh, so they've made multiple installments that are 100%.
Two, right, Mary? We did it in 2 installments, or 3? 3 installments?
Yeah, there's still one pending.
No, they're
So
complete.
the license is barely 3 years old, so they're fully paid, but they're paid up for 50 years. so-
Yes.
Okay, good. I move to approve as recommended by administration, and that the current payments are current.
Here, a motion and second to approve applications 1853 and 1854. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, same sign.
I'm gonna gladly turn the rest over to Bert.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Application 3131 and 3132.
Yeah, 31, 32, and 33 are all to Contreras.
The one in the 33 is a subsurface.
All right, the first two are aerial.
The other two are aerial.
31 is subsurface, Mr. Stubbs. 3131 is subsurface also.
They're all subsurface?
No.
That's the only one.
Okay.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Two aerial, two.
And see, Johnny,
Yeah, no, 31 is too, it's
It's a subsurface also.
Johnny, we always need to know in anything we do that the United States has an easement that we do have any control over.
well, it's in our application, Bill, I think. We're approving their application, we're not approving.
We're approving the license for the
I
application.
understand that, all I'm saying is, you just don't want to be in a situation where you're guaranteeing that you can give free and clear passage way to them. You don't have that
Well, I
control.
think that's in our
It's up to
license.
you.
Yeah, it's in the standard license, for I've been using Jim Rowe many years ago.
The one that you wrote, Spears, you already know it's in. Okay, so you're recommending.
2004, you wrote it.
Yeah.
31, 31, 31, 32, 31, 33, and 31, 34.
Yeah,
All
we-
together in one deal? Yeah. Do I hear a motion to approve
1, 2,
those?
and 3. 31.
Someone, yeah, stops at 3133. CD.
Just 31, 33, 34, and 35 or not? All right, application 31, 31, 31, 32, and 31, 33. Do I have a motion to approve them?
So,
Sarah makes a motion, George seconds, all in favor say aye. All opposed, same sign, motion carried.
31, 34, I need to get clarity. We can do it in an open session if you want. If you feel it needs to go to close, we can. Sorry, Bert.
Did I ask who is?
I'm just taking the ones that I was.
The name up there, I'm curious, is Jam Ludige,
I didn't do that part. Is that he's
That's
got a
that's
limited time partnership?
That's the Eloy student. Yeah.
That's your,
That's her name.
Did we check with Secretary of State? No, I haven't checked with Secretary of State on that one. So we're probably gonna table this one, because I haven't got all the paperwork done, we haven't done any background on it, but I do need to get input from the board, and it's up to the board whether we go to close to get that input, or I feel we could do it open. It's up to you guys.
When you said no action on that until,
Yeah, I just need to get your guys' input on how to handle that.
right now.
Yeah, right now. So
Just that.
yeah. There's no action to be taken, just
But you still want to get some input.
yeah, so on that, there was a request to do a parallel installation. And in the manual we have right now, it doesn't allow that, that's an exception, the board has to make a decision on individually.
parallel to the,
To the lateral?
To the lateral, it's a crossing, it goes across the lateral, and then it wants to run down the toe or lateral. The only exception I have to that, the board approved years ago, was for low pressure natural gas lines during times of extreme drought. In other words, to be able to supply a well with a low-pressure pipeline instead of polyethylene direct air pipeline. In this case, this is a more permanent installation. It's for potable water, so I don't have any guidance. So I just let you know that when I bring it back up.
Well, it's gonna be
You
in the
know,
toe
you
of
know
the
what,
bank.
Al? This situation, I went to look at their situation, it's a check that they put their own check in.
What,
Yeah, it's their own check. They installed that check for using for wells, I went to go see all of it. And they're running just a pipeline right on it, right? Which, the only persons that use that check is them themselves. And they do that, you know, they got 3 wells in that area, they go to the 154 and they come down the 341. But in this situation, like we got Lower Valley Water District coming in with a bunch of, this is gonna happen a lot here in the near future. Especially because they're gonna run the water lines, Lower Valley Water District. And I don't know, we should take into consideration something different by doing that.
I don't know, I guess the time that they put the check in was before we formalized.
Yeah, and we had actually brought it to you all when they extended the water line to the Tornillo Bridge. And we had agreed, or the board had agreed, that instead of being $1,000 application fee, we reduced it to $500, since it was going to constituents and their workers.
Right.
And
Yeah, and when we're doing all that, we've got
Right.
that in the policy, that's in the manual. What's not in the manual, what specifically says I can't do, which you guys would have to approve, is the crossing's a non-issue.
The lateral, and is there one existing already, the pipe?
No, well, he put it on there without our approval, but it's not approved.
But there is one.
It's just like what Surratt did years ago. It's the same thing.
Yeah, there are people that before we formalized the licensing process, before the land, especially before it was transferred from reclamation, that went out and did stuff that we've left. They don't have a license for it.
we grandfathered.
You know, we just haven't, the board hasn't taken action on any of those things. This is for potable water, so it has special procedures, and if we don't charge a fee for this, like, we charge the $500 fee to do the maps and all that
It's
stuff.
gonna be, the crossing's no problem, but it's gonna be lateral for how far?
I believe approximately 400 feet, we don't know exactly.
Can it be at the toe of the deal and?
Be at the toe of
We're not
the
responsible for
lateral.
anything that happens to it.
My recommendation would be to move it right on the boundary,
Yeah, exactly.
and not within our boundary, but right on
I
it.
don't have a problem.
And that would be, and so anyways, when it comes in front of you next time, it'll be an exception to the manual, we'll have to take that.
Is this Lower Valley or Fabens? 'Cause
This is
both
a
districts
private,
are in there.
this is a private
It comes in
application.
from Fabens.
Comes in just straight in the water.
It comes in
Yeah, it's
from
number
Fabens.
4 for them.
I'm looking at a similar situation, and I was thinking when you put in a 2-inch pressure line for spraying your trees, you know, you get a lot better water. I don't know.
You know, I don't have a problem with it, it's helping people take, with their constituents, as long as there's no interference with the district. And if you put it in the right place and do it according to the way you think it's all right, I don't see a problem with it.
That's all right, but yeah, I was just gonna have it put at the toe of the, right at, sort of really more
Property line.
at the plow line,
Yeah,
Right.
so that it's right,
But there needs
right
to
on
be,
the top of the fence.
there needs to be an understanding, if we tear it up, it's not our fault.
Right.
Yeah, it'll say that in the license there, it already says that.
Well,
It's just, like I say, this is one exception that we don't allow parallel installations without correct order.
Right.
So,
But in
so we'll
this-
bring it back to you next month, and you guys will be approving that exception at that time,
So we
if you
need
so
to
please.
Approve the exception before we approve the application.
You're instructing me to prepare the license in a manner that you could consider approving it, so we'll wait till you approve it. I'm saying, I'm preparing it so that question will be before you, it's not on, we're not ready to have that question answered.
Okay, so we table it right now.
Right.
Okay, that was my question. I got lost in the explanation.
There's a line in Tornillo too that runs like that. Like
There's lines all.
There's
over.
lines.
Yeah, what I've seen.
And I'm
The
sure.
Bureau gave me permission 40 years ago to run one from Fairwoods down the canal, but down the drainage bank of my house. And I used to, I got that, I think Jim Kirby was the boss up there at the time.
Some of those might have been verbal.
No, I had to deal with that.
But we don't have any, we only have,
It expired.
we have a complete library of all the licenses issued, and we cannot find a license for this. Well, this, he told us it's brand new. And these old ones you're talking about, they're before we set up the policies.
But Larry's right, you're gonna have a bunch of these, I think, because a whole bunch of people want water right
Well,
through
as long as they're-
Well, you have a position where we don't charge a fee for that, other than the administrative fee, which is reduced, so there's no use fee.
Yeah, for people to get potable water, that's a huge deal.
Right.
My God.
And
You ever
sewer
live
is
without it,
probably-
you know.
Right.
Yeah, well, sewer will probably have to be done by Lower Valley, not by the applicant. This one's unique, if it was done by Lower Valley, they've always placed it in a way, this request came from somebody that hadn't done these with us before. And that is.
Irrigation landowners.
So anyways,
We'll bring it back for approval next time.
we'll get it prepared and keep it on the toe of the thing, if that's okay with the applicant, shouldn't be any problem.
So you don't want the application approved?
I don't have paperwork
All
for it.
right, application 3135.
3135 is to the El Paso Water